Good morning. Welcome to the 2024 National Autonomous Vehicle Day here in Jacksonville. Welcome to Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome to the JTA's Armsdale Test and Learn facility. My name is Greer Johnson Gillis. I am the Senior Vice President and Chief Infrastructure and Development Officer for the JTA, and I will serve as your Mistress of Ceremonies for our program today. At the JTA, we begin every meeting and every event with our safety message, because safety is at the forefront of what we do. Our safety message for the month of May: prevention is better than a cure. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come together today to celebrate the second anniversary of National Autonomous Vehicle Day here at the Armsdale Test and Learn facility to celebrate all things in autonomous innovation. What can we expect today? You will hear from industry experts from all over the world. Your colleagues here to speak about the latest developments in autonomous vehicle technologies. Between our speaker series and our panel discussions, you will hear how we all are challenging the landscape of the transportation industry now and into the future. Plus, we will be live streaming the event across the globe today on our YouTube channel so that many more can join us and hear about the wonderful things all of us are doing in this space. We have 7 demonstrators here with us today who are showing us their latest wares. Many of you had the opportunity to visit with them this morning in our pre-work. So for all of our demonstrators, JTA, Guident, Off-Tech, Safe Rider, Star Robotics, Tom Bush family of dealerships, and Cartier, please, if you have not had the opportunity this morning to visit with our demonstrators, please do so at lunchtime today. We want to give a round of applause to our demonstrators for joining us this morning. And for our celebration today, we could not do this without our sponsors. So I want to take an opportunity to recognize our sponsors for today. Our platinum sponsor, Balfour Beatty. Our gold, yes. Our gold sponsors, Jacobs, Beep, and Holon. And our silver sponsors, Adistech, Off-Tech, Airspan, Novelstat, OXA, ETM, Miller Electric, and Kimley Horn. Thank you. And very important for all of us who are here this morning, I want to give a special acknowledgement to our coffee bar sponsor, Kimley Horn, and our lunch sponsor, Balfour Beatty. Okay, now let's get started with our program. We will begin with opening remarks. First, please welcome to the stage a man who needs no introduction. He is an award-winning transportation expert, leading advocate for how autonomous vehicles and other advances can be used to improve the quality of life for travelers throughout the nation. His proven track record as a change agent and visionary who embraces the state-of-the-art technology and innovations has made him a highly sought-after advisor and consultant. Before becoming the CEO of the Jacksonville Transportation Authority, Nat Ford began a stellar career at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York, the MTA, before he went on to become CEO of 2 of the 10 largest transportation authorities in the U.S., the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency in California and the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority in Georgia. Those positions gave Mr. Ford the distinction of ushering in industry first. The first 100% transit smart card and multi-dollar transit-oriented development at MARTA. the first real-time smart parking app and oversight of a regional authority spearheading multi-billion development in San Francisco. That expertise and forward thinking was the compass that helped Mr. Ford guide us when he was named the CEO of the Jacksonville Transportation Authority. Mr. Ford is currently the immediate past chair of the prestigious Transportation Research Board, and he is a former chair of the influential American Public Transportation Association. In 2020, he was named the Outstanding Public Transportation Manager by APTA. In 2019, he was inducted as a thought leader by the Eno Center for Transportation. And in 2016, Mr. Ford was named the White House Champion of Change in Transportation by the U.S. Department of Transportation for embracing innovation and improving the quality of life for all and for all modes of transit. Mr. Ford has an MBA from the Jacksonville University's Davis School of Business, a bachelor degree in applied science and organizational leadership from Mercer University, and he is a graduate of the Executive Development Consortium program at Emory University and completed executive training at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please give a round of applause and let's welcome Mr. Nat Ford, CEO of the Jacksonville Transportation Authority.
All right, Greer, so see me this afternoon around your evaluation. She embarrassed me a little bit there. I mean, I don't do all of this by myself. I've got a great team of folks here at the JTA, and they afford me the opportunity to lead at the national level. It's so great to be here and see all of you here, and welcome to our 2025 AV Day celebration. This has been an exciting week for the JTA. Earlier this week, we broke ground on our new AIC, the Automated Innovation Center in La Villa, and so it's just been a great week. We had visitors from the FTA here talking about our project, amongst all of the other projects we have underway here at the Jacksonville Transportation Authority. So good morning, everyone, and it's great to see you all here. We welcome you to the Armsdale Test and Learn facility. It is a key component to our autonomous vehicle program here, and we opened it up once we decided to move forward with the ultimate urban circulator. You know it as the U2C, and you have seen probably in the last, if you've been reading the newspapers and following Jacksonville, we have been just exploding in terms of population. We are now ranked 10th in the nation in terms of total population as a city, so we broke that hurdle, and we're in the top 10 in terms of population. And recently, Wall Street Journal placed us as the second hottest job market in the U.S. and the #1 job market in terms of Florida. More and more people, all right, that does deserve applause. So more and more people are moving here every day, and that is pressing our transportation infrastructure, and is why it's so necessary for us to embrace autonomous vehicle technology. Covering 870 square miles, we have a lot of nooks and crannies, and including our downtown, to really try and service our community and move them in a more efficient way. To address that need, we are rapidly becoming, and that's why we're here today, we are trying to set Jacksonville up to be a center of autonomous vehicle technology, and we appreciate you all being here. And in fact, you may have heard about Project Link. Project Link is tied to our U2C program. Project Link is an investment by a major international Tier 1 automotive grade organization to actually begin manufacturing of autonomous vehicles here in the United States, and hopefully through a process, it will be right here in Jacksonville. And we are so excited about that opportunity. The jobs that will be created in addition to the mobility, the economic impact will be for generations yet unborn in terms of Jacksonville, and put our city on a totally innovative trajectory. I mentioned 2 days earlier, we broke ground on the Autonomous Innovation Center. We are on schedule to deliver the U2C project, the Bay Street, Phase 1 Bay Street Innovation Corridor in 2025. We are on schedule. We're making great progress. The U2C represents our vision of the future, where our residents and our visitors are better connected to destinations which will help them improve the quality of their lives. Here in Jacksonville, we like to pride ourselves on our healthcare facilities. In addition to the U2C project, we've done work in the past during the pandemic on Mayo Clinic's campus, and we see the opportunity not just to move commuters and move folks who are going to sporting events and entertainment. We see an opportunity to improve the healthcare opportunities in our community by providing autonomous vehicles on those campuses. The US DOT and the FTA are our co-founders. Our project started back in 2015, and then we were fortunate to receive a build grant that funded phase 1 of this program. And that partnership, again, I told you it was a busy week. That partnership was even more reinforced just this week when we signed a grant agreement with US DOT to begin the design and examination and the planning around phase 3 of our project. We haven't launched phase 1 as of yet, but they are feeling so bullish and so supportive of this program, they've actually contributed $1.7 million to studying phase 3 of this program. That 7.5-mile phase 3 expansion will go into neighborhoods like the North Extension, which is the UF Health Corridor, connecting with UF Health on the north side of Jacksonville, downtown Jacksonville. A West Extension to the Riverside Corridor. That is where Dun & Bradstreet and a number of financial institutions have built, FIS, have built new campuses for financial tech work that is done here in Jacksonville. So we'll be connecting with that business community. The South Extension, so now we have a South Extension, North Extension, and a South Extension. On the north, you will have UF Health. On the south, you'll have Baptist Hospital. And that will create a true healthcare corridor. And then a southeast extension into San Marco, one of the older neighborhoods here in Jacksonville, and completing the total 10-mile system for the U2C program. All of this work and the planning around it will set us up for additional federal funding, and we're working very closely with US DOT and our federal partners. I believe that in the future, when the convenience of using autonomous vehicles is commonplace, you will look back at events and days like today, where we came together, working from the government sector, the private sector, the innovators, where we came together and started building this new technology and this opportunity to move people more smartly in our community. I want to thank Harold Braun. Harold's going to be up in a second here, of Guident, for being with us this morning and being a true co-founder and partner as we develop these systems and these opportunities to gather. Guident is working on making AV deployment safer through their work in collaboration with agencies like the JTA. Our progress would not be where it is today without their support. And so, and then also I need to recognize yesterday's keynote speaker who stepped in at the last minute, Dr. Paul Newman, a renowned expert in robotics and mobile autonomy, one of the founders of what was Oxbotica and now OXA. We did not get here alone. It is a pleasure to welcome all of you here to Jacksonville, and an honor to learn from you. We didn't get here alone. As I mentioned, co-founders, and I picked up that phrase from Paul yesterday. It is an ecosystem of co-founders in terms of our project here at the JTA. And one of those groups of founders is the JTA Board of Directors. Could you imagine, as the CEO of the JTA and the staff, working for a board of directors that allowed us to boldly move forward with this new technology? This facility here, giving the JTA the opportunity to do the research and development so we could be a good partner with the innovators in the private sector that were working in this space. We've tested numerous vehicles and different technologies and systems here at this test and learn facility. We're joined by Debbie Buckland. Where's Debbie? The chair of the JTA board. Okay, she may have had to run out, but she was here, and the leadership in terms of the JTA board, they have created this environment of innovation, courageousness, and boldness here at the JTA, and I'm joined by a staff that believes in the same kind of mission and has the same DNA. I'd like to applaud our friends across the state of Florida, the United States, and the world travelers who have come here to Jacksonville to be part of today. We have a fantastic slate of panels ranging from infrastructure to workforce development and more. We are learning and growing together. And that is the hallmarks of progress in this community. This is not easy to do. In fact, this is tough to do. But the tough things are so rewarding. In the very end, the mission is so rewarding. Think about the mobility that we will be able to provide with autonomous vehicles for communities that have been landlocked for generations, providing mobility to allow people to get higher educations, get better health care, and to be able to get that job that they so much want to have but can't get there efficiently. So with that, I'm just proud of everybody in this room. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your boldness, your innovation, and thank you for joining us here in Jacksonville to be part of this journey, part of this legacy, and the U2C program. So with that, it's now my honor to bring up a friend and a partner of the JTA, Harold Braun of Guident. Harold, come on up.
Not quite yet. Now, let me informally introduce Harold Braun. Mr. Braun is the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Guident Corporation, a company for autonomous vehicles with a novel patented system to enhance AV safety by providing industry-leading remote monitoring and assistance services. Harold is a successful serial entrepreneur in the telecommunications industry where he led several global companies. Mr. Braun was the former president and chief executive officer of Guident Networks Incorporated, transforming the company from a specialized microwave backhaul equipment provider to a world-class provider of IP network wireless solutions. He also served as a member of the company's board of directors. Before joining Guident Networks, Mr. Braun served as the president and CEO of Siemens Networks, LLC, and as a senior executive in Nokia Siemens Networks North America, where he established a company in the next generation telecommunications marketplace in North America. Mr. Braun is a prominent standards influencer and spokesman in the telecommunications industry and has been recognized as one of America's top 100 voices of the IP communications industry by Internet Telephony magazine. He was also awarded the prestigious title of International Telecom CEO of the Year by IT and Telecom in Africa. He recently co-authored the book, Telecom Extreme Transformation, which was rated one of the best new technology books of 2022. Mr. Braun earned an engineering degree in telecommunications from Aachen University, Germany, and is a named inventor on several patents in the AV industry. Now, let's please welcome Mr. Braun to the stage.
Thank you, Greer. All right, thank you, Greer. Thank you, Mr. Ford. And I have to thank you especially for your vision you put together here for JTA. It's just unbelievable to see what happened over the last years with JTA. And what a week for them. Wednesday, they did groundbreaking for the UTC project. Yesterday, there was the state of the authority, and I learned a lot about what JTA all did during this year, but in particular, how visionary the innovative mobility project is with UTC to get really the first time in the US such a project started in 2025. Groundbreaking was already, and we are so happy to be a part of this project here together with JTA. It's recognized all over the world. It's not only in the US, it almost acts like a blueprint in the US, and in all my speeches, which I do globally, I have also the permission to talk about that. It's well recognized what JTA is doing here in the US, and not only in Jacksonville. So with that, welcome again to the third National Autonomous Vehicle Day. For people who don't know what that is, May 31st, every time at the same date, it is the US National Autonomous Vehicle Day. And we planned our first meeting in Boca Raton 3 years ago. So it's the third time for me. So I started it in Boca Raton with a smaller group, but it was very successful. And then last year, we were here in the conference room, and under the executive leadership from JTA, they said, well, we are going to do it this year in Jacksonville. And we did. And now we do it the second year in a row because it was such a super success last year. In particular, you know, to experience with demonstrators and also with panel participants, you know, the autonomous vehicle industry worldwide. One of my particular goals was to make it not only a US-based kind of a conference. My goal was, let's go out of the bubble and see also what's happening in the rest of the world. Therefore, in the team, I was more or less responsible for bringing international leaders here. And I'm very happy to have here Dr. Paul Newman, which will be we will do the keynote address later on. We have Dr. Pecker here from Adastec, and we have also the former Prime Minister of Estonia here, Taavi Rojas. All of them are in the autonomous vehicle industry, so I'm very proud to have them here also as a speaker. And again, as it was mentioned many times before, I would like to welcome every participant, everybody here, as Mr. Ford said, and you will hear it today, I guess, from Paul Newman, Dr. Paul Newman again. We are all co-sponsors. We are all co-founders. We are all in this industry together. This is very important. Therefore, we set up, let's talk together, let's experience what we did, let's talk to the world and what we did on technology, and also show the world what we are doing. Despite all of our efforts, which we did over the last year, there is still a notion out there from end users and customers and partners that autonomous vehicles are not safe. This is just out there somehow. But many people you talk to directly, they never experience an autonomous vehicle. So, but they have already this prejudgment that this is not safe. There's no driver, there's no steering wheel, there's no pedals, there's no nothing. How can that be safe? So once people experience this, and that is our call for action here as co-founders all together here, this is our call for action that we have to change that. We have to talk about our technology, what we did in the past. We have to get out there with our vehicles, and we have to get out there and make sure that people experience it firsthand. Last year, we had a keynote speaker here which was blind. And he told us the story that it was the first time in his life that he had a date with his wife in a car where no driver was in there, right? So for some people, this is a game-changing experience to have an autonomous vehicles in their life. And it's not only this group, it's all of us. We need to make sure that we listen to this call for action and make sure get out there with our vehicles, get out there with our technology, talk about, do something good and talk about it, and let people experience it. And once they experience it, it will be very quickly that they change their mind. And they see how can we actually deploy those vehicles in a kind of an U2C project here, you know, as the urban circulator from JTA, or other areas in, I say all the time, geo-fenced areas, low speed, fixed routes, not door-to-door service as you see from some other companies. That will come later on, but let's first get out there, let people experience what autonomous vehicles can do, and then we take it from there. It's our call for action. Therefore, in the beginning, the idea was we have to collaborate. I don't see any competitors. We are in this thing together here, and we can learn from each other, we can push each other to the right level, and there is a cake which we can share. Everybody in the ecosystem has a part of doing it. Today you were a competitor, tomorrow you are a collaborator. Tomorrow you are a co-founder. And again, I think Paul Newman, I have to apologize that I used that, and Nat used this also because it was inspiring. Come on, that was good, right? So And so that's what we are all here for, to experience, to learn from each other, push each other to get that industry moving. It will change people's life, and it will change the environment. It will be sustainable, and it will be good for all of our future. So with that, please, as Greer said earlier as well, demonstrators are out there. Please demo as much as possible. We have also new demonstrators here. You see virtualization. You see a level 4 vehicle running out there. You have a security robot here, autonomous security robot here. You have a lot of things which you can experience. And of course, in the beginning was already some demos this morning, and in between we have the panels with our esteemed panels and keynote speaker. So it will be a nice, solid conference, but we need to participate all in this together. So welcome again, and we are very honored in Guident as a small partner to JTA, and as Ned said, friends and business partners. So that is what it all is about. We are all in the same ecosystem. What we would like to do, let's make sure that we have good discussions, good experiences together, and let's push the industry forward. So thanks very much for joining, and have a great day. Before I go out of the stage, I need to recognize who put that all together. There are two people who were really driving it almost on a daily basis, which is Andy Williams. Please wave your hand, Andy. Angie. And from our side also Fabio Thielem, the work from our side. And there were numerous people behind it, and they made it all work. It's not that easy, right? But we made it happen. I wish you a successful day, and I see you at the end of the day with some closing remarks. Thanks very much, and let's do it. Thank you. Well, yeah.
Thank you, Harold. Now, it's time for our keynote speaker. Dr. Paul Newman is a creator, pioneer, and innovator of autonomous vehicle technology. He is the president, founder, and chief technology officer at AXA, formerly Oxbotica, BP Professor of Information Engineering at the University of Oxford, and founder of Oxford Robotics Institute. In 2023, he was appointed as the UK Connected Autonomous Mobility Champion. His pioneering approach to AV technology is being successfully harnessed for real-world application at AXA on roads in 4 continents, down mines, across warehouses, and around airports. He makes and leads teams that use bits to move atoms. You'll hear more about that in his keynote speech. In 1999, Paul set out the fundamentals of the large-scale navigation problem, SLAM, simultaneous locationalization and mapping, which underpins the driverless vehicle revolution. After 3 years at MIT from 2000 to 2003, working on subsea and land autonomy, he returned to the UK and built the UK's first AV stack. Dr. Newman continues to lead the way in AV innovation, having authored 200 papers, garnered 16,000 citations, and registered 22 patents. Beyond his responsibilities at AXA and in the academic world, he is a strategic advisor to businesses and organizations at the government level. He currently serves on the UK government's Department for Transport Science Advisory Council and is on the BSI Standards Committee for AV Technology. In 2015, he was elected a fellow of the Institute for Electrical and Electronic Engineers, IEEE, and IET, the Institute for Engineering and Technology, and the Royal Academy of Engineering. Please help me welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Paul Newman.
Very embarrassing. Thank you. Well, that's all very embarrassing. What a pleasure to be here. And If this works, it's great. If it doesn't, I'll do it by interpretive dance. And that has been known to happen. So thank you, Greer. That was very, very generous of you. Okay. Is something coming up somewhere? How about, it looks like we're up for interpretive dance, right? Yay. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Paul Newman, and it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for such a magnanimous and warm welcome. What's not to like about Florida? I haven't been here for about 12 years, and it's great. And this talk, at the heart of this talk, is going to be why Florida's great, but perhaps for a different reason than you're thinking about. Now, straight up, apologies. Some of you heard me say some of these things yesterday, and I haven't since then rewritten the talk, but I might have some different jokes as we go. So if you could do me the courtesy of making a Brit feel comfortable by laughing at them every 30 seconds, that's going to make me feel at home. So who is this guy? Well, I mean, I've had the most privileged life. So fortunate. And the first autonomy systems I started thinking about were on the 15th of March 1995 in Sydney. And I was crossing the road and I was talking to someone and said, what are you doing for your PhD? And they set out the mother of all problems. And I have never looked back since then. I was spending my entire life figuring out how machines don't get lost. Yeah, and still working on that. So I don't know if that makes me good at it or not. But at the heart of that problem of machines, robots, vehicles, knowing where they are, what's around them, and what they should do. That's kind of the underpinnings of autonomous vehicles. And that's what I spent my life doing. And the bit that I can contribute to this with some fantastic people I work with is how software does that. And, you know, if I look back over, 25 years, 30 years with my Australian accent there, it's just extraordinary, the different technology that we get to play with and use to leverage this and how this has changed. And as an academic and entrepreneur, it's a privileged position to be at the spearhead of that, you know, and you get to invent it, and then your greatest success as an academic is when your arch rival goes, that was a good idea, and they use it. Isn't that interesting? And it's a bit like the co-founder idea. Absolutely delighted that we started talking about each other as co-founders. So Mr. Ford, thank you very much for that. And Harold, I think that's exactly right. So who is this guy? Well that's me. And Ogsa build software. You could kind of think of us as like Microsoft Windows without being partisan. Because obviously if you're an advanced human, you'd use Macs. But we won't go there. Okay. Come on, that was a joke, okay? I'm not really picking on Microsoft. But you've probably used different kinds of hardware on your computers. You probably had a Lenovo at some point, maybe an IBM, maybe a Compaq, who knows? But probably the operating system was somewhat constant, and you probably did different jobs, yeah? So you probably had different computers made by different people, different atoms, yeah? Same sort of software, and then you did different jobs. You were writing documents for doing different things, right? Same model for software. So these are some of the vehicles that our software has powered in different things. And the software is the same for all of these environments. That's interesting because we've got a bit of a quarry work. We've got someone in a refinery there. There's a mine in Canada. Interestingly, when you have to dispatch your employees with anti-bear kits, never had to do that before. Some German action there, some London, ports in Singapore, off-road, agriculture, and on the bottom right, that was some delivery, underground, agriculture. Same problem set, and I find that really interesting. There's something common about autonomy wherever it is, I think, if you build it right. And I think you don't necessarily need to offer it to a type of place. And right now, this was a screen grab from someone a couple of days ago out on the road. We're working with e-transits, turning them into low emissions or zero emissions at point of use vehicles, both for passenger carrying, so on the right-hand side there, that's the inside of the minibuses in e-transit, and we're hoping to be using those here in Florida in coming months. And across the bottom there, the kind of vehicles that we power, but we don't make any of those atoms. Yeah, we make the bits to move the atoms, and to do that we need to be in an ecosystem, which I'll be talking about a lot. So what am I going to argue here? And I was supposed to leave the stage 5 minutes ago. Okay, this is not going to happen. Okay, I've never been known to talk to time, and I've got very exciting things to share, so I beg you, please stop going, oh, this guy, okay, because I'm going to have, I think, an interesting argument here, in a sort of like a academic argument. I'm not going to pick on someone and say I disagree. So I'm going to argue that here, in quotes, place, especially the JTA, perhaps matters more than it can possibly imagine, because place really matters. I'm going to be arguing how you can get to drive and operate everywhere by going somewhere first, and then doing more somewheres. And the technology I'll be talking about is how you can do more and more somewheres, faster and faster and faster, in fact, inhumanly faster, and at the same time building the safety case that allows you to build trust with citizens that you can do it. Avoiding having to say, I've finished this, we're done, ship it. Because I don't think that's credible. So that's what I'm going to be arguing. So, if you were going to be doing a normal AV talk, you'd stick stuff like this up, right? You'd go, look, there's been market research, and you would insert some very expensive consultancy company. And they would say, look how much market research we've done, it's huge. Of course it's huge. We're talking about changing the way that people and goods move. And if you get in an aeroplane, you look out the window, look at how much is that flashing for you? Okay, it's just down here. Look out the window of a plane and look about how much infrastructure our species has built. And I would advocate it's been built for 3 things. 1, places to sleep and spend time with your family, your homes, right? 2, places where we work. And 3, stuff to move stuff between the first 2. Right? It's pretty much it, right? And so all of our roads, our rail, our ports, our airports, all of that is about us wanting to move atoms between these places. And so how things move, I think, is about to be changed massively. And this is going to be the generation that generations will look back at and go, cool, round about then, they managed to evolve away from horses. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So I think often it's an undersell because, honestly, it's not just cars. Okay, and I think if there was a mistake about the AV industry, it's that it got too car-y too soon. Just because you could look around and see there are many, many cars. Many, many cars, right? But they're made really, really cheaply. And I've never had a city ever, ever, ever come to me and say, hey, we'd love to have more single occupancy vehicles. It's just never happened. What they've come and said is like, we'd like to have different ways to move people and goods in a more efficient, less carbon emitting, different form factor, more flexible way. Can you help? And we would go, yeah, who could we work with? Right? Rather than saying we want to build a taxi company. So not just cars. Because, go to an airport, look out the window and count how many different kind of vehicles there are around there. There's a lot of different vehicles doing different things. Go to a port, go to a mine. How many of you have been to a huge mine? There's a thing you need to do. Oh, it's incredible, right? You need to do 2 things. You need to go to a large iron mine in Australia and also go to the country Iceland, although the latter one is perhaps oblique, but it's a good life tip from Paul. It's utterly amazing how those vehicles get built, how they get moved around, and the changes, for example, that can happen with autonomy in mining. But never mind that, think about 16 people shuttles and you see them out there. That's going to revolutionize how people move. In the UK, we have lots of things called park and rides, where we try to not get single vehicles into cities, but there are car parks where you can park and small buses take you in. And then there's work vehicles like this fella here. Is my cursor working? Yeah, in the middle. That's a work vehicle for towing vehicles around industrial environments or agriculture or lots of yellow vehicles. And so mobility is about moving all the kinds of moving atoms, but we need to do it differently. Now, this is good if you haven't seen this slide before, but if you have, you know where it's going to go. So bear with me. This is a picture of a wolf, and wolf are fine, fine animals. And you may be thinking, why has Newman here put a picture of a wolf up? Okay? Well, the reason is I do like a good metaphor. And I think the wolves of Yellowstone are a fantastic metaphor for something unexpected that's going to happen. So I think it was back in the 80s, we had the great idea of reintroducing a top predator into Yellowstone. Magnificent beasts, good to hear them howling. And what they did is they like to eat elk. Bad news if you're an elk, okay? Good news if you're a wolf. So the wolves would chase, and I guess they would eat not the toughest, most buff elk. They would eat the sickly ones that keep the pack a bit slow. And so elk don't normally like being eaten by wolves. It's bad from their outlook, so they kind of run away, which means they change the field that they're in. So they don't overgraze, they don't eat too many flowers, and the pollinators started to come back, and the elks got healthier. And the pollinators came back, and so more trees started to grow, more plants started to grow. There were different plants growing, and the trees grew on the banks of the rivers, and so when it rained heavily, they held the water back, so there was less dirt and soil that went into the rivers, and the rivers got cleaner, and the fish started to grow, and then the beavers got happy, the beavers moved upstream, and they do that thing where they stop the rivers going, and they build dams, and the rivers slowed speeds, and the erosion changed, and so the mountains changed shape. Are you kidding? A bunch of dogs made mountains change shape, and it's called a trophic cascade. It's when you introduce something interesting in an ecosystem that's different, and there's a cascade of effects. And I tell you this is what autonomy is going to do for the way in which people and goods move. I've got a good example of this. So I worked on port automation when I was out in Sydney. And one of the things was we could move the drivers inside. So the vehicles that were operating the ports, those individuals that were operating those, they didn't have to be sitting out in the baking heat of the Australian sun, and they could be more reliable. But do you know what one of the biggest savings was? The biggest savings was they turned the lights out at night, because the machines don't need light like we do. They see in radar light. So save 400K a year on electricity costs at night because they don't need the lights. And there was another one that was kind of cute, is that when humans were dropping the crates down on the deck, and insurance. So I'm going to take you back to when you were at high school or at university. I'm going to kind of talk about training an engineer, but it works for everything. And I'm going to use this metaphor, and then in the next slide, I'm going to switch these boxes around and talk about AV stuff. So bear with me. You're probably going, strange guy. This is not what I was expecting, but I kind of like this analogy, and I think it's really useful and interesting to think about how these AV software is being trained, and then how you can build trust around it. So you're a student and you want to learn something, and let's say you want to be taught to be an engineer. So you could reasonably go to college and expect a teacher, a professor, a lecturer to give you a syllabus that is relevant. So, you know, at Oxford, when I was an engineer, I wasn't expecting someone to give me ancient Greek, okay? You know, maybe that's only 50-50 at Oxford, but, you know, basically, it was going to be relevant to what I wanted to learn. So I'm going to get given a syllabus, a curriculum. And I would have been set lots of tests. Not exams, but tests. Like every night, do some homework, and I would go back and see the tutor, and they would go, oh, you know, you're really not very good at microwave inference or something, or, yeah, I don't know, something. There was a lot of things I wasn't good at. And then, so the supervisor, the professor would then give you extra homework for the stuff that you were weak on, yeah? They would target the syllabus. They would say, please do more questions to do with question 6 because you're not very good at bridges. So you'd get more bridge questions, yeah? And eventually, you'd get better at bridges, right? And different students would get different homework because they were weaker in different ways. Okay, great. And then eventually, it's D-Day, and you've got to take an exam. You have to do it, ladies and jelly babies, because to pass an exam is to pass your qualification. And if you're qualified, you can go out into the world and do engineering stuff. Yeah, and people should listen to you because you're an engineer and you've been qualified. And then you get to use your qualification out in the world, and life gives you brutal feedback, right? I remember when I was a young engineer, I thought it was awesome. First thing I launched, it was not good, and the feedback wasn't brilliant. You just get to learn how good you are, and you get feedback. But if all engineers, say, I don't know, from a university, maybe a competitor university dealing with CAM and have something to do with bridges in Oxford. Come on, that is a good joke if you about Cambridge, Oxford. Okay. So you would get this brutal feedback, and then you might need to change the exams, because if people are being qualified but not doing very well, you change the exams. Moreover, if you're a lecturer and all your students are failing exams, what happens? The lecturer needs to get taught as well. So now we're talking about who teaches the students, okay? And teacher training colleges, okay? And all of the resource that all of these learners use is a library, okay? So this is how an education system works. And now I'm going to switch this around. I'm now going to switch this for AVs. So the student becomes the software in the AV, okay? And the student is going to get taught things that are relevant to the AV. And what I'm arguing here is that the things that are relevant are not everywhere in the world. They are perhaps Bay Street. So there should be a syllabus that is created for Bay Street. Right? And there should be tests that are created that says, how good are you on Bay Street? Because that's where these vehicles want to work. This vehicle may go to work in a city called Boo. There should be tests about the city called Boo, and it doesn't really matter if it can do Reykjavik at the same time. Now, it would be awesome if in one go, you can say this vehicle can go everywhere in the world, under all weather conditions, everything it's never seen, it's nailed it. I would love that. Don't think you can get there in one. I think you get there by taking lots of exams quickly and getting better at those exams, and those exams generalize more, and I think that's the feedback loop to do it. So, I've got my hard negative mining, that's my professor saying, ooh, in virtual rehearsal I noticed that in torrential rain, underneath a shower cloud when the sun was low and there'd been a certain temperature change, and those cameras flared, and there was someone wearing pink crossing the road behind a bike, and there was a white van that had just cleared. You took half a second longer than I expected to spot the aardvark. Okay, I made the aardvark up to try and get you to smile, but you know, something odd that's happened. You don't want to wait and drive around waiting for that moment and go, oh, I found it. You want to actually synthesize those nightmare scenarios and find them virtually first. Okay? And then for us, the exam is assurance. So assurance is, I've done so many tests at runtime, I've done so many tests in rehearsal, I feel qualified. It's like, say you were, I did this one yesterday, so say you were a lawyer and you were brilliant at shipping law. Can't imagine why you'd want to be good at shipping, but imagine you were a lawyer and you were really good at shipping law, and your friend says, I'm getting divorced, can you give some advice? You would go, I'm not qualified. Because you remember the exams you took, and you go, you're asking me questions that are outside my qualification. Okay, really subtle idea here. Isn't that a good way if the vehicle could remember every test it ever took, and then it could convert what it's seeing at runtime into an exam question and say, was I ever asked a question like this? So maybe you're going past, I don't know, after a football game, and there's thousands of people, and there's rain, and there's snow, and it's very different. You go, I remember testing myself, seeing 4,000 people coming towards me waving flags. I don't remember that. Right? It doesn't mean you're not unsafe, but you are far away from your qualification. So you may go, maybe I'll doubt myself a bit more and be more cautious. And so that allows us to build a safety case for a place, Bay Street. Okay? It comes with that. I want to go to a different place, I'll build a safety case for that street. And the point is, this has got to happen really quickly. And then the interesting thing here is that there's a generative AI that's generating the syllabus that teaches the teacher. Whoa. Okay, so we've got the student who's learning, then we've got a professor, and there's someone that's teaching the professor, and those are generative AIs. Okay, and those are deep fake technologies as well. So here's some examples of how we can generate data that's never been seen. So at the top left there, that's a view from a simulator, okay? And it looks a bit cartoony. It's okay, it looks like a video game, but it doesn't look like real data. But what I could do is I could take the geometry from that, because video games are really good at shape, but not so great at the visual effects. And that's what that top left image here is these images have been colored in. So I've just colored all cars purple. This is not quite the same scene, but you can imagine this has come from a simulator. But machine learning is awesome at coloring in. So this is this same scene colored in snow, colored in Boston autumn, colored in nighttime dark. None of those are real, but that's a syllabus that has been generated for an AV that I didn't have to wait. So what I could now do is I could say, what's your nightmare? Right? What's the way? So I could take the vehicle, the bits of the vehicle software, test it, go, how are you with this? And maybe it's not so good in heavy snow. You go, here's more heavy snow. Get better. Here's, oh, I see, heavy snow and huge white trucks in airports, okay, when the snow's interesting. Let me give you more data on that. So you can either have harder exams generated by the AIs, or you can have different syllabuses generated. And this is a really great use for deepfake tech. Which of those is fake? Quick, someone? Yeah, it's a good guess. One of them isn't. Actually, you could go, it's from Britain, so choose the greyest image. This one's real, okay? This is fake. This is us simulating how would the perception system work in rain. Can you see there's a reflection here? So does it see upside down cars? Does it see the vehicle in the wrong place? This is clearly not going to happen, but this is a different form of flooding. This is snow. This would be very rare in the UK. There'd be national panic. The nation would probably stop working. And this happens exactly half the time. And here's another one. So this is entirely synthetic. This is working in a refinery. And this is us having taken a single camera driving forwards just once, maybe 16 pictures. All of these views are synthetic. So we can now synthesize what would the AV do if it was at this pose or if it was at this pose. And then, of course, we can add different weathers on the top of that as well. So again, this is us having generative AIs generate adversarial test scenarios virtually before you go on the road. And then if you have something that happens on the road that was interesting, you could then take that and go, ooh, that was interesting. I've done a review of that. I'm going to generate 1 billion examples like that. And that allows me to explain how we've improved it. Because they say before we didn't have 1 billion scenarios like that. Now I do. This is part of my safety case for Bay Street. Here I talk to my insurer. This is why this is now better for Bay Street. And I have Yellowbird saying, see, I am better. So the regulator's watching at the same time. Here's an example from a couple of nights down in Lake Nona. It's a good example of generating a syllabus. So wanted to work at night. How are we sure we're okay at night? And we put different new cameras for us on those vehicles. And so those cameras weren't very good. Well, they were good, but they weren't the same as we were expecting at daylight. And so what we're able to do is take a daytime image like this and say, here is kind of what that camera looks like in low light conditions. Right? Because, you know, if you took, your mates, if you all took a photo at night with your camera and you compared them, if you notice they're all slightly different, they go a bit grainy in different ways, they're not identical. So what this allowed us to do was to say, take nighttime images and color it from a camera that's not so great at nighttime and train. So we generated a new syllabus for our friends down at Beep that allowed the vehicle to learn at night. So we could then say, we are okay at night without having to drive a lot of time through night down there with a new kind of sensor. And here's us doing it in industrial autonomy, pretty interesting. And so here we are in some mud, only we're not, that's fake. The original image was this. Looks rather cartoonish, and then the AI colors it for mud, okay? And obviously that's pretty attractive for our friends that are working in industrial autonomy. And then finally, perhaps a different syllabus is not just what things look like, but it's also how people might behave. So this was an example that was, of course, alarming. The vehicle in front is driven by a human, and this is a dream scenario where the AIs have said, how might humans move around another human driving? The other human driving wasn't great, human walked in front of it, but then of course, unexpected to us, the vehicle in front hit someone that then fell into the path of the AV. And that was then a scenario that we then start to train against and go, you need to watch out, not only for yourself, but what other people are going to be doing around you. And of course, that's obviously a very pertinent thing with things that have happened this year. So I hope I've made perhaps an unusual case. I've talked about how you might think of a mental model for training AVs and teachers of teachers, but I hope at the heart of that, you understand that you drive somewhere before everywhere, and you drive many somewheres. Generative AIs allow us to generate those syllabuses, generate trust. That trust is always anchored to a place, which is the safety case, which is why having you guys building an ecosystem that involves software players, hardware players, users, fleet owner operators, transport authorities, and citizens is so important, because I think we show it here and we export it to the rest of the world, and we do a better job at moving how people and goods move through the world. And I think we should do that together, because it drives somewhere before everywhere and mobility reimagined. Well, my name's Paul Newman. I know I've talked for way longer than you wanted. I'm sorry about that. But I really wanted to get to the Gen AI stuff at the end, and I've never finished a talk on time. So I do appreciate your patience, and I'm around if you want any questions, and I'm here to serve. Thank you very, very much.
Sorry, it was quite long.
Thank you, Dr. Newman. So did you get it? Bits, atoms, ecosystem, sense of place? Yeah, it's real, right? Again, thank you, Dr. Newman. Okay, let's move on to our first panel, an update on the JTA's Bay Street Innovation Corridor. But first, allow me to introduce you to our moderator for this discussion, Dr. Rockman Johnson. Rockman Johnson, PhD, was elected in 2023 to represent District 14 on the Jacksonville City Council. Dr. Johnson was born and raised in Jacksonville. He graduated with honors from Jean Ribault High School and holds degrees from Edward Waters University, Seton Hall, and Jackson State Universities. Dr. Johnson has worked as a radio and television personality for stations nationwide. He has served on the Jacksonville Civil Rights Task Force, the Downtown Development Authority's La Villa Gateway Project Steering Committee, Mimi and Lee Adams Environmental Board, the Thurgood Marshall Achievers Society Board, the Guardian Schools Board, and the Sickle Cell Disease Association Board. Dr. Johnson is a member of the Society of Professional Journalists, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, SAG-AFTRA, the Urban League, the National Association of Black Journalists, the American Association of University Professors, and the United Nations Association of the United States. He also served as a stakeholder for the Jacksonville Insight process under Mayor Ed Austin and was an organizer of the Jacksonville Community Council Forum for the Future. Dr. Johnson has appeared in media worldwide. He was featured in Ebony magazine as an outstanding young leader, quoted in USA Today and the London Times, hosted and produced an award-winning daily show on Nickelodeon, and was named one of the 10 to watch during a decade by the Florida Times-Union newspaper. He has received countless awards for journalism, teaching, and acting during his more than 30-year career. On the City Council, Dr. Johnson currently serves on the Land Use and Zoning and Rules Committees. He is also the council liaison to the Joint Planning Committee, the Safety and Crime Reduction Committee, and the Jacksonville Public Library Board of Trustees. Dr. Johnson authored a poetry collection, Living, Loving, Letting Go. The book was named Book of the Year by the American Library Association. He continues to perform and lecture, spreading a message of self-actualization and cultural understanding. It is with great honor that we welcome Dr. Rockman Johnson to the stage.
Good day. Good day. I feel like Marcia Fudge when she said, am I the only one in the room right now? It's amazing to see you. Thank you for having me here. I am so excited. And as I look at that contraption just above your heads, it reminds me something. As an African-American man, the person that invented that, Garrett A. Morgan, so many years ago, could he have imagined where we would be today when it comes to automation? The autonomous vehicle can be traced back to the early 1900s, 1925, 1939, 1977, but what's most important is where we are today in the city of Jacksonville. And as one of the elected leaders, I'm so excited to ask the questions to see why and how. Now today we're taking an amazing opportunity to pull back the curtain and take a glimpse into the future. And with National Autonomous Vehicle Day, Jacksonville, the city I love, the city that I grew up in, and the city that I'm proud to say that I'm a leader of, we have embraced this technology, looking forward to the future. But walk with me for just a moment in your minds. Imagine a city where the morning commute is no longer long and arduous and tedious. Imagine a city where traffic jams are the thing of the past and roads are safer for everyone. Picture a world where someone with a disability who once relied on others for transportation now has the freedom to travel independently. Autonomous vehicles aren't just a technological marvel, but they are a gateway to an inclusive, efficient future. And today, we're here to acknowledge the strides that we have made into making that vision a reality. Now, autonomous vehicles hold the promise of transforming our transportation systems, reducing accidents, but most importantly, moving away from human error. Let's celebrate the innovations and the visionary minds that are creating this opportunity. With that, Greer, I'd like to thank you for that warm introduction. I'm so glad to be here as a part of this amazing panel to ask the questions why. Now, you've heard so many questions about the JTA Ultimate Urban Circulator project. And I was so excited when JTA asked me if I would put my journalism hat back on to moderate this particular discussion. We are certainly looking forward to your questions, but we want to make sure that we are giving you answers. Today, the JTA CEO and staff will discuss the Ultimate Urban Circulator and give us an update on this project. Now, each of the panelists will speak for 5 minutes, and then we will enter a fireside chat with JTA CEO Nat Ford. After the discussion, you get to ask your questions. So please allow me the privilege as we get started to welcome one of the foremost innovators of transportation in the United States, a man who works diligently to make sure that the next level is the level that we will ascend to, JTA CEO Mr. Nat Ford, and with him the Vice President of Automation and Innovation, Guident, and the Mistress of Ceremonies, of course, Greer Johnson Gillis. Let's give them a round of applause.
I think I'll do the first question up here. Councilman. Okay.
So, am I on? Is my mic on? Am I good?
Yes.
Okay, there we go, there we go. Without any further ado, Nat, this is such an amazing opportunity for Jacksonville.
Right.
And as you know, with me being on the city council, I'm always asking questions. But vision is important for Jacksonville. We are taking vision to another level with this because it's something that's not been done before. What is your vision as to this project and how it will work in our community?
Okay. Well, thank you, Councilman. You know, when we started this journey a few years back, we started out with a problem. And the problem was the aging Skyway, and it was past its useful life. And we needed to figure out and decide whether we were going to extend this obsolete technology, the 2.5 mile people mover that never got fully built out here in Jacksonville. It ended up stopping at 2.5 miles, and when I first arrived, great deal of criticism, and then differing opinions, tear it down, keep it up and expand it. So there were a lot of various different opinions, but the thought was, because the JTA uniquely is an organization that does public transportation and roadway building and bridge building, our team very boldly came up with the concept of looking at how we could use autonomous vehicles and future-proof the Skyway, or future-proof that downtown people mover going into the future. One of the things that I think is most important with the team, and they're coming up and being creative with this new concept, was that they cared about Jacksonville and cared about this community. And many of us, when we first arrived, I know myself, Greer, and a couple other folks, when we looked at a lot of our infrastructure, we thought that there was a need to really elevate it, and that we needed dignified and first-class transportation infrastructure to take our city to that next level. We knew what we were taking on was a big challenge, right? Something that had never been done before, but it was not a question of if on autonomous technology, it would be a question of when, and how do we do it in a way that was responsible and also something that was innovative and I say deserving of our community. The Ultimate Urban Circulator program came out of a Skyway Advisory Committee that said, okay, we know downtown is going to be developing. We need to have a system that is expanded and covers the entire 10 miles. Unfortunately, covering that entire 10-mile area with using the continuing use the Skyway would have took us into the billions of dollars, and frankly, it would have took generations probably to actually build out that aerial structure with the monorail system. We also recognized that there was a federal investment in the existing Skyway. It's still there right now. And so with that federal investment, we were getting challenged that were we going to keep the Skyway, properly maintain it. They saw the disinvestment, the actual cannibalization of some of the vehicles. They saw that, and the FTA was challenging us to reinvest in the existing Skyway or find a way to repurpose it. And so out of that, the U2C project was born. We had to, and this facility is an example of it, if we were going down a path of autonomous vehicles to extend the system, we had to learn and understand autonomous vehicle technology just as well as you do as the private sector and the innovators. So we couldn't have that imbalance of an authority or an agency that is talking about a technology but really doesn't understand the brick and mortar of how those systems operate. Very fortunate, and I applaud the JTA board, very fortunate they gave us the green light. We had built this facility to be part of our First Coast Flyer bus rapid transit network. It was actually a motorsports showroom or something of that nature, and it was a perfect location for our automation and innovation team to separate from the core JTA operation and come here and innovate and learn about these technologies and test over this time frame over 8 or 9 different vehicles. Out of that came the Golden 20, where we actually then shared our learnings as it relates to the innovators who were developing the technology but really didn't understand the public transportation part of the equation. So with the Golden 20, we pushed that out to all of the early manufacturers. And next thing you know, we started seeing vehicles that were developed that considered ADA accessibility, public information communication, the redundant systems that are necessary to make sure we have control and command on those vehicles. So we positioned the JTA to be a leader in this space around the public transportation deployment of autonomous transportation. We positioned the JTA for that. We developed a great team of experts internally to the organization, and then many of my peers around the country, I think you recall years ago, I started talking about the U2C project, and not just to the government and public transportation folks, we were talking to the private sector. We were doing presentations all around the globe, the idea being that we recognized and saw that there was a shortage of Buy America and eventually no Buy America compliant vehicles in the United States. So how are we going to solve that problem? Well, that got us into economic development and working with manufacturers to really see what were their plans overseas in terms of coming to the US. I say all of that to say is, we started out with a problem, but at our hearts, we cared about people, we cared about technology, we cared about taxpayer investment, and the idea was to come up with a solution that would future-proof for Jacksonville, have the scalability, and have reasonable cost in terms of its development. And here we are today. We're excited about the opportunity to what this will bring to our community in terms of economic mobility at a basic level, because that's our prime responsibility. But now we've gotten into a space where we are creating a new ecosystem around technology. And this project and this program has now grown bigger than the actual U2C project. I mentioned earlier about Tier 1 manufacturer coming to Jacksonville. As part of the program, we've worked with FSCJ. We have a partnership with them, developing the curriculum for up-and-coming engineering students and students who want to work in this space. We've done that with Duval County Public Schools, with row shows, showing them these different types of vehicles. And then something that I'm really excited about is the ability to expand far beyond the U2C project and use this technology in some of our areas that are less dense. And frankly, a 40-foot bus or a light rail vehicle would be extremely wasteful in terms of using those technologies and using that type of public transportation to solve our issues. At the end of the day, we want to lead this industry. We, from a public transportation standpoint, many of you around the country, we've worked with you, the ACES Coalition, Scott, I mean, thank you for your leadership, pulling all of us together so that we learn together and we lift our transportation in this community and in this country to the standards that I think is dignified and what our communities deserve. And so with that, that's the vision in terms of the U2C project and how we got to where we are today. And once again, thank you for being here. It is not an easy journey, but with the partnerships that we've formed here throughout the nation and around the world, we're going to deliver this project, and it'll be something that we all can be very, very proud of. So with that, thank you, and then I'm available for any additional questions, Mr. Councilman.
Thank you. And before we move into it, and each of you, I wanted to take 5 minutes. So Greer, if you could give us a bit about the U2C project, the agile plans, where things are going at this point.
Love to do so, Dr. Johnson. Mr. Ford really set the foundation, the vision for the ultimate urban circulator. And in his opening remarks, he shared with you the 3 phases of the ultimate urban circulator. Phase 1 being the Bay Street Innovation Corridor, which is we see as the foundational piece of the ultimate urban circulator. Phase 2 is what we're calling our downtown service expansion, or you may know it better as the Skyway conversion. That Skyway we all love, near and dear to us. How do we actually convert that to an autonomous vehicle roadway that would actually ramp down and connect with phase 1 of the Bay Street Innovation Corridor? But then phase 3, let's take the vision for the Skyway, the 10 miles, and actually make it purposeful. We're expanding out into the downtown urban core of Springfield, San Marco, Riverside, even into the hospital areas, all the places that Mr. Ford mentioned earlier this morning, completing the 10-mile system. But that's not all of the ultimate urban circulator. We felt that it is important that we show use cases that really meets to the needs of our community. We call them agile plans. They're really small neighborhood area deployments to really serve a particular need of a particular campus or a particular neighborhood. The first one we launched in March this spring at the downtown campus of Florida State College of Jacksonville. We ran a 1-mile circulator from the Student Center to the President's office area. That was really a test for us and a test for the community. Why do I say a test? Because we wanted to demonstrate, here's the future now. That shuttle service is actually a purpose-built shuttle, an Ollie shuttle. It has an OXA ADAS system on it, and we're seeing and testing in real time what we're going to do on the first phase of the Bay Street Innovation Corridor. But we're not stopping there. Over the next 5 years, we're going to put out 15 different deployments in different areas of our city, again, to show those use cases that really supports the community in their needs, whether it's neighborhood circulation or first mile, last mile connection. But it doesn't stop there. A part of our Move 2027 strategic plan, our 5-year strategic plan, many of the community told us, the JTA, we need more connectivity, we need more options, we need more solutions, and thus, we're going to complete that seamless mobility solution, Dr. Johnson, because we're looking at the next opportunity, our Ready Ride system.
That's right.
We have 16 zones already across the county where we are providing door-to-door, curb-to-curb service. It is Mr. Ford's vision that those become autonomous vehicle networks. And even bigger than that, we're looking now to commingle not just those Ready Ride services, but also with our ADA and paratransit services.
Right.
So when we commingle those services under the Ready Ride umbrella, we are serving the needs of all. And by serving the needs of all, we're going to have an autonomous vehicle network that really is going to provide that connectivity and accessibility that really our city residents deserve. But the foundational piece is the Bay Street Innovation Corridor.
Thank you for that, because one of the reasons that I got involved and I called UNAT was because I represent the southwestmost district.
Exactly.
And so having oak leaf plantation in the district and needing to connect oak leaf plantation, which for those that don't know from other places is pretty far out, but wanting to connect it to 103rd Street, which would then get people to downtown, this was exciting for me because it allowed my constituents, and the same with constituents at the beach or other parts of the city. So that's why, Greer, it's exciting, because I kept hearing, why are we only doing 3 miles? And I said, no. It's not just 3 miles, it's 3 miles now.
Right.
But there's more to come. So thanks for explaining that.
And I think you pulled up the exact situation. You know, the focus has been so much about the U2C program, but the autonomous vehicle technology for our industry, for the public transportation providers here in this room, we know that one of our biggest challenges is what's called that first mile, last mile gap.
Yes.
And in a city like Jacksonville, 870 square miles, we have the largest BRT network in the southeast part of this nation at 58 miles. But it's only as good as the people who can get, it's only as good as the connectivity from the door to door. And so this technology will allow us to feed with autonomous vehicles at an efficient price point, cost point, to feed our big bus operation, so to speak, and make it much more connected and efficient for the JTA to provide much more broader services to this community.
Gotcha. Kid, let's bring you into the conversation. Tell about the Bay Street. Tell us a little more. Obviously, we know we just had some major events happening in the last couple of days with the Bay Street Innovation Corridor. Give me some details about that. What can we expect, and how does this integrate into the largest, into that larger part of the system, the ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here at National Autonomous Vehicle Day. Really excited to share with you an update on the JTA's plans for launching our innovative new autonomous vehicle circulator, our phase 1 of the Ultimate Urban Circulator program, better known as the Bay Street Innovation Corridor. This will transform mobility in downtown Jacksonville. So we are at the cusp of a new era of profound changes in transportation enabled by cutting-edge technologies like autonomous vehicles. Advancements in sensors, artificial intelligence, and vehicle automation are allowing us to rethink how we move people and design mobility services that are safe, more efficient, and more sustainable than ever before. At the JTA, we have embraced this paradigm shift wholeheartedly. Our mission is to provide our community with seamless mobility options through an integrated network of transportation choices tailored to our community's needs. The Bay Street Innovation Corridor service that we will unveil in late June 2025 represents the next major milestone in this journey. So this state-of-the-art system of self-driving electric AV shuttles will provide safe, frequent, and eco-friendly mobility around the downtown Jacksonville core. With AV shuttles arriving approximately every 7 to 10 minutes, the corridor offers a unique first and last mile solution, providing that seamless mobility between Skyway stations, BRT stops, parking garages and parking lots, offices, shops, restaurants, sports and entertainment venues, plazas and parks, and residences. So for our upcoming autonomous circulator service, we have partnered with our vendor Beat to design and deploy a fleet of 14 AV shuttles. The AV solution utilizes the Ford E-Transit electric vehicle as the base platform that is retrofitted with an automated driving systems technology stacked from AXA to enable these self-driving capabilities. This base vehicle meets all of the stringent federal requirements as stipulated by the U.S. Department of Transportation Build Grant, and these include Buy America, Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. AXA Systems integrates multiple LiDAR sensors, cameras, radars, and other devices to detect objects all around the vehicle in real time. Its AI software classifies these objects, predicts future movement of other road users, and directly controls the vehicle's driving systems. The AXA system allows the retrofitted AV to operate up to a Society of Automotive Engineers Level 4. So this means that it's a highly automated vehicle and can perform all driving functions under certain conditions. It combines precise mapping, localization to track vehicle position, and environment sensing through an array of all the sensors and the cameras. This intelligent system rapidly processes all the sensor data to make driving decisions and maneuvers, just as a human would. It has been rigorously tested and will be continuously and rigorously tested and verified to ensure the utmost safety and reliability to our community. Regarding our project status, I'm really pleased to announce that we are on track to launch the Bay Street Innovation Corridor service in late June 2025. And that is what we have planned and committed to. And this has remained consistent and has not changed since the project inception and as the project has progressed. The first 2 of our 14 vehicles are currently being retrofitted with the AXA Automated Driving Systems technology stack in Michigan currently as we speak. And they are on track for delivery to the JTA on September 30th, 2024. With this delivery, this will initiate an initial 5-month testing period with off-track testing at the SunTrax facility in Central Florida, off-track testing right here at the JTA Armsdale Test and Learn facility, as well as on-road testing on the corridor itself. The remaining 12 of the 14 vehicles are scheduled for a late February 2025 delivery, and this will commence a final 4-month burn-in and testing and verification period of all of the AVs, all the way through our June 30th, 2025 revenue service launch milestone date. In addition to that, our substantial completion of the Autonomous Innovation Center, which we broke ground on a few days ago, that serves as our operations and maintenance facility, but most importantly, that is the future home of our command operations control center that will oversee all of the BSIC vehicles, as well as all future AV shuttles that will be added to our JTA fleet of AVs. And that is on track for a March 31st, 2025 substantial completion. Additionally, all of the improvements along the corridor at our stops and stations and ITS smart equipment, that is actually also on track for substantial completion on March 31st, 2025. So in conclusion, the Bay Street Innovation Corridor represents the next generation of mobility solutions for Jacksonville. Safe, sustainable, and seamlessly integrated to better connect people, places, opportunities, and communities. We can't wait for you to experience this innovative new service when it launches next June. That's just a little bit over a year from now. There's a lot of hard work between now and then, but we would welcome everybody to come back for that celebration when we launch. But as Greer and Mr. Ford mentioned, but this is just the beginning. The JTA will continue to boldly embrace new technologies to provide the safe, efficient, equitable, and accessible mobility options that our community and our region desires and deserves. So thank you very much for your time and attendance today and for being a part of this very important conversation in celebration of National AV Day. Thank you.
All right. Now, I will tell you, I'm not going to take it easy on you. I know we know each other, but I'm going to ask the tough questions because I did get my training in journalism, and I am a journalist by trade, so I will be asking those questions.
No worries.
But I want to ask, why autonomous? I mean, there's so many other things. I know I've heard from my colleagues. I'm an early adopter, right?
Yeah.
I like to see technology and the new things happening.
Exactly.
There are those who are saying light rail or commuter rail or even expansion of bus services is the way to go. Why autonomous and why now?
You know, it's about having the right service for the problem, right, for the challenge. And when we look at autonomous vehicle, when we look at light rail, for example, we're talking about, in this case, a 3-mile loop. Let's just use that 3-mile loop with a control center, and that control center can be expanded to manage hundreds of vehicles. So when we talk about the ready ride zones and things of that nature, this control center can maintain all of that and operate all of that. So that's a one-time kind of capital cost. In terms of the daily operations cost and the initial capital investment, we're talking in this particular case for 3 miles, $66 million, so the average is about $30 million per mile for service. It's a scalable service. We can add vehicles, subtract vehicles, and one of our largest cost drivers at the JTA is the operator in the seat. And so that limits us financially in terms of how much service we can provide based on our budget. And our taxpayers and fares actually cover that budget. If we look to the future and being able to provide more transportation for our community, we have to look at that operational cost and that capital cost. So I've heard, what about light rail? Let's do light rail. Well, some of my colleagues are here in the room. When you talk about a $30 million per mile cost versus a 1 billion mile cost, I think the math speaks for itself. Do we need in Jacksonville over 847 square miles, I think it's 870, right? 870 square miles with a severe lack of density in our community? Light rail would not be the right solution from a per passenger cost. That system, folks would ride into into downtown, commute into work in the morning, and they would commute home. And during the day and in the evening, we are still paying for that service. It's not scalable. The tracks, the catenary wire that would have to be installed, billions of dollars that would be invested, and you have that ongoing operations and maintenance cost. I've been fortunate. I've built pretty much every surface transportation mode that's out there. I'd love to build rail in Jacksonville, but in this particular instance, in downtown Jacksonville and in these your community and the communities that are less dense, using a jackhammer to deal with a tack is an overkill, and I think it would be the wrong decision at this point. We are looking at rail, potentially regional rail, connecting the different cities within Northeast Florida, but a light rail solution, the ridership isn't there, and I think it's disingenuous sometimes to throw that up as a substitute for this program because no one actually talks about the cost of that investment.
And it's destructive, right? It's
something
that our grandkids, in our lifetimes, would we even see the realization of that?
Well, and I think, frankly, what I'm seeing with this technology is the flexibility, the scalability, the adaptability. Why? Because you don't have those fixed tracks and fixed stations. So when we talk about downtown Jacksonville, yes, we have the Bay Street Innovation Corridor and that 3-mile loop, but that 3-mile loop could be adjusted based on time of day, day of week, Jaguars game, jumbo shrimp baseball game. Yeah. So we can adjust frequency, we can scale up and not have that operating cost that we actually deal with using the technology. And frankly, it's preparing for the future. Vehicles will get larger, more capacity, things of that nature. So
Let's talk some specifics.
Yes.
We're looking at a year launch, a year
Yes.
from now. I think we're all ready for that because we're chomping at the bit. But that leads us back to the other question. Based on the time that has been spent,
yes.
Are we behind schedule? Will we be on track to make it in time so that we launch and that we follow all of the other benchmarks?
yeah, I think I'm very comfortable with our schedule. As you know, when we actually applied for the build grant and started what's called 30% design, well, you folks are familiar, then 60% and 90% design, we're building a system that there's no guideposts, there's no template. You know, if I was building, again, light rail or commuter rail, I can go to some of the cities that have built it, go see how they developed it, probably adopt the same vehicles, and just off we go. It will take a long time, but there's a template, there's a history. 100-year history in terms of streetcars. So what happens in this particular case, we're building something that's never been built before. So I think there's a certain level of grace and understanding in terms of innovating and inventing. And the future and the benefit here is so great that the time we're taking to do it, I think you measure 3 times with something like this and you cut once. We can't afford to do it and fail because of what the dependencies that everyone has on us.
Let's talk vehicles. I'm looking, this is the Huron, right? This
is the Holon.
The Holon,
yes.
hold on. This is the Holon vehicle. That's the one we've all seen about, we've heard about, but then I'm also hearing in the research that I've done that those will not be the ones
Yes.
that will be operating. So the question then comes back, is it truly an autonomous vehicle? I got to ask the right question.
These are questions that have come up.
Yeah,
So the Ford e-Transit vehicle is with a autonomous kit bolted onto it, is an autonomous vehicle that can get to level 4 operation. And level 4, for the lay people, is clearly no human intervention. The vehicle drives itself. We are 100% supportive of Buy America and putting Americans to work to build this infrastructure and build this system. Because our project is a permanent deployment with a federal grant, we have to comply with certain rules and regulations related to vehicle crashworthiness, related to Buy America clauses, and to make sure we don't miss our schedule with our grant, because it has a timeline. Yes. We had to make a tough decision to say we're going to go with the retrofitted vehicle, which accomplishes the mobility. The primary goal here is autonomous mobility. This vehicle accomplished it. We also do recognize that there is going to be entrance into the US market with purpose-built vehicles designed specifically for these types of deployments, and when that time comes, we'll make a decision and an adjustment. But we are not going to lose our timeline and lose our federal grant because we are looking at aesthetics and things of that nature. So the technology, the mobility, that's what's key to us, and then the aesthetics, they'll come at the appropriate time.
And I believe that Buy American influence and the other things,
Exactly.
that's one of the things that help the economy of the city.
And you and I talk very frankly. I do not like the shade that is thrown on the Ford e-Transit. It's built by Americans. The Buy America, Build America is not a Democratic or a Republican policy. It's been a consistent policy. It is Americans working in Michigan and other parts of this country to build these vehicles, and I think this is just our trajectory and our time frame as Americans to introduce this technology. And so I say that for the record. We will comply with Buy America.
It's National AV Day, of course, but right now the world is watching.
Yes.
There are companies in this room and who's watching from around the world. With the industry leaders here, the autonomous ecosystem here at JTA, how can they get more involved? And will we be the leader here in North Florida of that autonomous movement?
Oh, well, that's what we're enjoying so much, the partnership and being, I guess, the tip of the spear as it relates to introducing this technology. It is not easy. It's been tough. You know, every day I have to pump up Kit and Greer, stay the course, don't worry about it, don't get distracted, stay the course. Yeah. But the value to our community is so great. Mobility is the key to a greater community. And so what we're doing here at the JTA, we'll do the tough job, working with our partners. We're not alone. We didn't get here alone. That's why this room is filled. I think you all agree. What we are attempting to deploy here is a game changer. This is the most transformative time in transportation since going from horse and buggy to the combustion engine in the automobile. And for us to be part of this transformation, it's a legacy that we all can be proud of and help deal with education issues, healthcare issues. It's far beyond the technology. It's about improving the quality of people's lives, and we are going to help them get to good healthcare. We're going to help them get to that education opportunity, and we're going to help them get to that job that they desire, and that's our role and responsibility as professionals.
This seems to be the key for the Jacksonville or North Florida of the future, which will indeed determine how we are in the country.
Yes.
I know I'm standing between you and lunch, so I'm not going to hold you too long, but are there any questions from the audience? If it's okay with you, we'll take a few audience questions, please. I see one of the journalists in the back. Emily, you have a question. Go ahead.
You talked about the timeline on the bill grant.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat it again. Yeah, if you can. There we go.
You talk about the build grant and the money disappearing at the end of September of next year. Your substantial completion date is just 90 days out from that. So far, only about 8% of this project has been reimbursed from the federal grant thus far. How do you make sure that local taxpayers at the end of this are not the ones left footing the bill?
By completing the project on time in June of 2025. That is our strategy. We're working very hard at doing that, and I feel very comfortable we're there in terms of the development of the project. With a lot of these projects, as most of you know in the room in terms of engineering, design work, there's this slow buildup. And in this particular case, we had the FTA, I talked to the FTA administrator this morning, and we had the regional FTA administrator here this week. They understand the implications of what we're doing and the complexity of what we're doing. They have been involved in discussions whether Buy America was required or we could get an extension or a waiver. They were involved when we talk about FMVSS and having a compliant vehicle that is roadworthy. And so some of the delays or decisions that were made were our own doing, and we were doing it in transparency with the governing bodies, be it FDOT or be it FTA. So I think we are in a good place to deliver the project by 2025.
And part of those dollars, I want to jump in a bit. Yes, there's some funds coming from
funds from Florida DOT.
Yes.
Funds from JTA's capital reserves. So it is
But it's technology. It takes time to develop.
Exactly. I think this is not unusual for most projects, and particularly when you're talking about a project that there is no template. There is no template, but the actual benefits are so far, I think in the future, the benefits we see in the long term, I think that everyone is very understanding, most people are very understanding of the complexity of what it's taking to develop this project.
Gotcha. Other questions? Others? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Mauricio with Jacksonville Business Journal. And just
you said Mauricio?
Yeah, from
Mauricio, Business Journal, yes.
But I wanted to ask, you mentioned just now there's no template, and you're citing the ridership that isn't there for light rail. So with this, I mean, how do you try and build ridership, especially if it's mainly in the downtown core, which, as you said, mainly only has an employee presence from 9 to 5 every day. So what are you doing to build ridership? Is this just banking on 8 Jaguars home games during the season, or what are you going to do to build ridership within an area that is not densely populated, every day?
Building ridership.
Every hour.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
That's a very good question. And so one of the things we had to look at was the ridership projections as it related to getting the bill grant. So, I mean, the FTA is really, I think, pretty restrictive as it relates to their investment if they don't see potential ridership. The interesting thing that happened, when we did the Skyway Advisory Committee, it was clear. Downtown Jacksonville, there was going to be an influx and growth of development in downtown Jacksonville. So now when you look at the Bay Street corridor, you have a Four Seasons that's under construction right now, the sports and entertainment complex around the stadium. You also have Mosh that's coming into this area. We have the Naval Museum that's coming into that area. And there was a discussion at that time about also a convention center. So there is infill development and plans for reinvigorating the waterfront on the North Bank that clearly we think light rail might not be the proper solution for it, but autonomous vehicles of the right size with the right frequency that we can adjust based on events or based on population is a much more efficient solution and flexible solution than putting in the permanency of rails and overhead catenary wire and buying, very large light rail vehicles. So we feel that this gives us the flexibility depending on the future of growth patterns, travel patterns. It is really in some cases a technological adjustment in terms of the mapping of routes versus the fixed infrastructure that comes with some of the older conventional type of transportation modes.
We're going to take one final question from the audience as we begin to wrap. But Nat, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Based on conventional wisdom
Yes.
with growth, I sit on the Land Use and Zoning Committee,
Yes.
Which is, the growth is almost exponential that we're seeing trying to come into not just the
Yes,
city, but
that's right.
downtown specifically. Does conventional wisdom say that you build the transportation, the transportation things that you need after the growth comes, or should you try to do it managing, understanding that it's growing? What's the conventional wisdom when it comes to transportation for that?
Well, I think you have to find the right fit. So for the JTA, you hear the question about light rail. We built out the First Coast Flyer BRT system at 58 miles with it being light rail ready. So as those densities, and we monitor the actual building permits and density that's occurring on those 4 corridors. So that was the reasonable investment that the federal government was willing to fund based on our land use patterns and our density at the time. And it is done in a way that when density occurs and gets up to scale, now you can convert it to light rail. But you've developed those nodes along that 58 miles where development should be occurring, and then you are able to convert it at a future date. It is very hard to sort of build it and they will come when you're talking about light rail at about $1 billion a mile.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, for light rail, have some federal investment. And we are competing against cities across the country for those dollars, and you have to have, I hate to say, you almost have to get to needing that problem, having that problem for that level of a solution. But major investment in light rail and building it for them to come, that is going to be, that's a tougher sell.
And I must say, we've got the largest grant that we've ever gotten from the Department of Transportation to come with the work you all are doing. So kudos on that.
We know that federal, we're pretty astute as it relates to that federal funding formula and what are the criterias and the positioning that you need to do. As a legislator, what land use policies do we have here in place in Jacksonville that encourages density that supports a light rail system? Yeah. So as part of that evaluation for federal funding, do we even have in Jacksonville those light rail those policies that says in another 10 years, this is going to be a light rail corridor because all investment and policies are forcing multifamily housing, business development in that corridor. So there's a formula to kind of developing those types of investments, the determination of whether those investments are appropriate.
Gotcha. Producers are telling me I only have a few moments. Any final question? Final question? I'll take it. If not, oh, you do. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
I might, but there we go. The critical elements that you talked about going into this project, the LiDAR, the cameras, the sensors, signal priority. So far, the agreement with the city to put those in place on Bay Street does not exist, and the city engineers had pretty substantial concerns about that. How do you plan to overcome that hurdle to make sure that public safety is still paramount?
Yeah, I think, I'll say one thing and turn it over to the really technical folks here. But, interestingly enough, we got here because the JTA is a road building entity. So we actually are in traffic cabinets. In fact, we've had traffic cabinets. I think we have traffic cabinets right in the back here in our testing facility where we are in those cabinets. I see some folks, some of our AI folks working, nodding their heads. So that's not an unusual space for us. And on our First Coast Flyer BRT system, we have transit signal priority, and we are already, our vehicles in those corridors in partnership with Florida DOT and the city, the JTA actually installs and actually monitors and operates those components in those traffic signal cabinets. But I think you could do a
Mr.
better
Ford,
job.
you said it beautifully. We already are in agreement with the city and the state for transit signal priority for our bus rapid transit lines. We're doing the same thing in those conversations to ensure that we have the transit signal priority and all of the pedestrian sensors and flood sensors in place for Bay Street. It's a continuing conversation with the city, but the city currently are working with us through this 10-step process and have been working with us to ensure we have those technologies in place by the time we launch.
And I have to say, with me, I think I'm losing my mic, but I want to say that with our team, there we go, with our team, that was one of the questions when I asked you, will we be ready?
Yeah.
Maybe we're not going to be ready next week for the west side and coming in that space. But I was asking traffic engineering, where are we? What does this mean? Because at the end of the day, yes, I'm a city council person for the west side, but because we're a consolidated city, I'm a county commissioner for an entire county. So I can't just look at one segregated space. We've got to look at what's best for Jacksonville. So first of all,
the better we move our people, the greater our city will become.
There you go, there you go. So thank you all. Nat, you've done an amazing job, your leadership. We're fortunate to have you in Jacksonville, and we're working hard to make sure you stay here. I'll put that on the record.
Well, look, I'm not doing it alone.
Not at all.
I'm not doing it alone, and thank you everyone who's been supporting us through this project. It is a challenge, it is tough, and we're going to see it through because we care about our communities. It's not so much about the technology and the automation, it's about how we move people so they could achieve their dreams. That's what we're doing.
Thanks a million for this. Thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to host this. I will say quickly, I look forward to a Jacksonville as someone who is a Star Trek fan and an avid reader. I think about the books of Octavia Butler and other futurists who looked at cities that were not only inclusive, but also had things that were sustainable. And I believe this is one of those things that is not only inclusive, that allows everyone to have the opportunity to travel, as you said, for healthcare and education and so many other things, but the quality of life, but the sustainability portion is such an awesome aspect that we can look into. So thank you for this opportunity, and allow me to return this back to our Mistress of Ceremonies, Mrs. Gillis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Greer.
Thank you so much.
Yep, yeah, I got my mics catch me up.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always good to see you.
Same here. Dr. Johnson, thank you very much. Mr. Ford, thank you very much. And Mr. Den, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you're ready to go to lunch, but before you do, I need 3 minutes of your time, just 3 minutes. Did you know that we're not the only deployment of autonomous vehicles in our great state of Florida? There's actually 8 different deployments currently ongoing in Florida, one of which, the city of Altamonte Springs, which you'll hear about later today. But you know, we have one thing in common, besides being in Florida. We all test our vehicles at one place, just outside of Orlando. That's SunTrax, ladies and gentlemen. We want to introduce you to SunTrax for the next 3 minutes. Take a look at this video, please.
SunTrax, Florida's advanced transportation testing facility. designed and built to drive innovation and challenge emerging technologies within the automated, connected, toll, electric, and broader transportation industries. Developed by Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, this modern complex will position the state as an international leader for evaluating and testing transportation technology and its impacts to infrastructure, mobility, the environment, and safety. Situated on 475 acres in Auburndale, Florida, SunTrax consists of a 2.25-mile highway speed oval track that loops 9 secure testing sectors, accommodating customized testing configurations within a variety of conditions. Upon entering SunTrax, guests will be greeted by the iconic Arrival and Conference Building. This unique structure is outfitted with smart technologies, flexible work areas, dining services, and indoor-outdoor event spaces. Past the security checkpoint lies a series of climate-controlled workshops. Within these buildings are 16 individual bays that can be co-joined to accommodate custom space requirements, house multiple oversized vehicles, and connect to a private service yard. In the southwest corner of the facility is the SunTrax Geometry Track. This undulating topography and irregular grade changes provide the ideal environment for testing CAV functionality in limited sight distance conditions. SunTrax's 2.25-mile oval track has a designed straightaway speed of 70 miles per hour with a 10-degree cross slope at the corners, consists of up to 5 lanes, and houses 4 free-flow toll gantries. The urban and suburban environments, along with the pickup drop-off sectors, simulate a variety of configurations using custom shipping containers that can be fitted with facades and stacked to replicate a wide range of real-world scenarios. Cross-angle intersections and multi-lane roundabouts provide additional testing applications for up to 8 vehicles at a time. The noise, vibration, and harshness track features 8 pavement types to accommodate the testing of CAV cameras and machine vision systems, while the wet test track provides multiple low-friction surfaces with an optioned water element for traction testing and braking maneuvers. A 24-acre specialty paved technology pad can support up to 50 vehicles and 8 users simultaneously. Sample testing includes LiDAR radar detection, crash avoidance, and sensor configurations. Adjacent to the tech pad stands a 75-foot-high observation tower with a lobby and restrooms, and an elevated 360-degree view of the track and in-field testing activities. SunTrax, accelerating the future of transportation.
All right, thank you everyone. SunTrax is brought to us by the Florida Turnpike Enterprise and our partners at the Florida Department of Transportation. You can learn more about this innovative facility at suntraxfl.com. Now, we're going to release you for lunch over the next 60 minutes. Please make your way outside. The JTA staff will be able to assist you and direct you to the area for lunch. Again, we thank our lunchtime sponsor, Balfour Beatty, for their generous sponsorship here. We also will have demonstrators outside on hand. They will be available to you during this lunchtime period. So please, everyone, enjoy the lunchtime break, and we will resume within the next 60 minutes to continue our discussions. Thank you. Okay. While you're making your way out, just another shout out for our demonstrators. All of the demonstrators will be on hand for you during this lunchtime period. We will return back at 1 p.m. Thank you.